Hello and welcome to my channel. You know what? I am trying to figure out what name I should give my channel. If you have a good idea, I would love to hear it. Today, we are going to be making pork buns. Pork buns? Pork dim sum rungs. They're called Bao Buns. They're called Baozi. Baozi buns are what we're going to be doing today. So you know what Baozi buns are? They're the same buns that you saw with Po. You know, Po, the big panda that's eating all the buns, those little dumplings, that's what we're gonna be making today. And if you watch this recipe, you'll be able to make them too. They're not that difficult. The only thing that's hard is maybe the steaming part, but heck, if you have an Instapot, you can do it too. So follow me, you'll enjoy this recipe. So to start off, we're gonna have to create our dough. We're going to go ahead and use 3 cups of all-purpose flour and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, of course. And this is for our dumplings. We're going to add a whole packet of yeast. And of course, we're going to need to flour that yeast with a cup of hot water. The hot water is about the same amount of temperature you're going to get from the tap. We're going to turn the machine on and let it knead for about 5 minutes. And from there, we're going to let the dough proof for about 20 to 40 minutes. Meanwhile, in a small bowl, I add my chopped cabbage, a pinch of salt, pinch or 2 of salt, and that's about, what, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Then I let it sit for about 10 minutes. Now it's on to the meat. I'm using 1 pound of ground pork. I wouldn't choose anything less than 80-20. We want it to be a little fatty, of course. I added 1 teaspoon of grated ginger, a handful of scallions, a tablespoon of soy sauce, 2 pinches of salt, that means 1/4 teaspoon, a tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon of rice cooking wine, and 2 tablespoons of sesame seed oil. Then I added the cabbage and the meat and I started to stir. Now make sure you stir in the same direction. I've been told that if you mix the meat in different directions, it'll affect the texture of the filling. I'm not sure if that's scientific or not, but I didn't want to mess with tradition. Oh, and I forgot. I added 1 cup of water. And this is what the meat is supposed to look like after you've mixed it for about 5 minutes, manually. So the meat, let's put that meat to the side and grab your dough. Roll it out on a table and divide it equally into 6 parts. Now, I'm a little peculiar about making everything as close as possible, so I pulled out my scale and measured it that way. First I cut the dough in half, and then each half I cut into thirds. I rolled each cut piece into balls and left them on the table or in a tray covered with a damp kitchen cloth. I let that proof for a little longer, for about 10 to 20 minutes before going on to the next stage. At the next stage, I went ahead and made dumplings for the first 3 sections of dough. Now, this will produce about a hamburger-sized bao, or bun. For the rest of the sections, I divided them even further, into half, and that made for ease of handling, and of course, dipping into the soy sauce mixture. After placing about a golf ball size of pork filling into my little dumpling, I started to pleat it. Now, I'm not an expert, but this is the technique you're supposed to follow. I set the Instant Pot to steam for 3 minutes and let it rest in the pot for 5 more minutes after the timer sounded. Then I removed them. All right, so there you have it. Was that easy or was that easy? I enjoyed making them. My family devoured them, and I have a few left over. How you like them apples? Now, these are so delicious, and you can take them and you can freeze them in the freezer. Well, where else would you freeze them, right? Before you steam them, you can take these bao, and then you can put them in a Ziploc bag, put them in the freezer, and they'll last for several days. Now, I say several days because we haven't ever put them in the refrigerator for more than a few days because I eat them right away. They're so good. In any case, once you take them out, you steam them just like I showed you. If you have an Instant Pot, it's fantastic. If you don't, well, maybe you should get one. In any case, let's go ahead and go for the bite. The bite test. The bite shot. Here we go. Oh my goodness. The texture of the pork, sweet, salty. You have some of the cabbage there that I put in there. Now the cabbage is very important. If you don't put the cabbage, the pork stuffing will taste very bland in its texture, very one note. But with the cabbage, it gives it an additional crunch. So very important, don't forget the cabbage. Now you can put anything inside these baos, these little dumplings, because it'll taste fantastic. Just the way I showed you, the dough is simple, super simple. You wrap them together. The only really part that needs maybe some skill is the wrapping and the pinching. And other than that, you, my friend, are gonna be the proud owner of a couple of these dumplings, which you are going to devour. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wait hold on a second. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really enjoy when you do, when you give me that thumbs up, when you subscribe. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to bring these recipes that I have enjoyed all over the place with you. Now, what has inspired me to make these? So thank you so much for tuning in. I really enjoy when you do, when you give me that thumbs up, when you subscribe. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to bring these recipes that I have enjoyed all over the place with you. Now, what has inspired me to make these? So Dim Tai Fung is a restaurant in Seattle. And every time I go to Seattle, that's where I go, and I have their dumplings. It's fantastic, very delicious. You gotta go. They don't take reservations, but if you get there when they open, you'll be ushered in. If not, be prepared for a wait. They're that good. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time when I am going to be showing you how to make better, where I'm going to be showing you how to make some delicious, amazing eggs.